The second year into owning my own law firm, within a 6-month period of time, the first 6 months, I actually ended up doubling my revenue, speaking on national stages, expanding my practice to across the nation, hiring attorneys and additional staff, and I was well on my way to becoming $1 million company in my second year within the first 6 months. Yes, it felt so good to be there. Yes. But the truth was, while I was celebrating out into the world in my accomplishments and how far I'd taken my law firm, in the background, I wasn't happy. The truth of what was going on for me is I was exhausted. I'd been working my butt off for 2 years, actually for 13 years, being a lawyer, and I was really tired. Law was my life. Being a lawyer was my life. And I was confused at this moment in time, like, what's going on? This is everything I've always dreamed of. I'm doing it. I am the success that people want. Why do I feel confused? Why do I feel so lost? I found myself 2 months later attending a retreat. The retreat was going to last 10 days. I showed up the night before. It was going to start on a Saturday morning. And they told me when I checked in that next morning at 8 a.m., they were going to take my computer and my cell phone and all technology. And I was like, okay. So of course, as a typical lawyer, Saturday morning I woke up at 5 a.m. and I jammed in 3 hours of work before I had to hand over. I was one of the last ones that entered because I had so much shit I had to take care of. And then I finally handed over my computer and my phone. And I started to feel rather naked. But that wasn't the worst of it. They then told me that your name, first and last name, would not be used throughout the whole 10 days, and I could not tell anyone what I did for a living. It was completely banned from the conversation. I couldn't ask anyone what they did for a living, and I couldn't tell anyone what I did for a living. Instead, they referred to me the entire time as Jeej, which was the nickname that I got as a little baby because my older brother couldn't say the name Jennifer. He couldn't pronounce it. He was 2. I did not like this last name, and as an adult, being called Jeej for a week didn't feel very good. It was at this retreat, that first day when I was meeting the 40 other strangers there, that I realized I have no idea who I am without my identity as a lawyer. I didn't know how to introduce myself to people. I didn't know how to start conversations. I didn't know how to join conversations. I was so conditioned to lead with what I do. I would ask people what they do. I would continue to ask them questions because a lawyer takes care of people. We're always asking others about who they are, what their needs are, how we can help them. And I didn't realize that by doing that my entire life, I actually lost who I was. So it went both ways. I couldn't have conversations. I felt very lost. And I also, when people asked me about my life, what do you like to do for fun? Or who are you? And I was like, hike. I do like hiking. But I was lost. I had no idea. I didn't know how to talk to people. And it was a really sombering moment. It was 6 days into the retreat, and this complete losing of my identity, where something started to shift in me. And the shift was that I actually found my soul. It had been missing from me for a very, very long time. And while that retreat was the most uncomfortable thing at that moment in my life I'd ever gone to, it was the biggest gift of my life. because it allowed me to find myself again. And you know the truth? I never wanted to be a lawyer from the beginning. And I was faced with the fact that I wanted something more in my life. And I knew exactly the impact I wanted to make in the world. So I made a promise to myself that I would take the steps to start my next business, and it was born there at that retreat. I made one promise to myself, and the promise that I made to myself at that retreat was, you will, moving forward, only make decisions for your life if they're coming from my soul. That sounds beautiful, right? It's really hard in the beginning to do. Because there's 2 steps involved with staying connected to your soul. The first one that I learned and I could feel and I completely embodied while I was at that retreat is you have to create a lot of space to connect and feel your soul communicating with you. But here, I left the retreat. I had to go back to being an attorney. I owned a law firm. I had several employees. I had a lot of clients across the nation, remember? I had speaking gigs. I had all of that. So it's like, all right, where are you going to find the space, Jen? Because you know you have to find the space to stay connected to your soul, to continue to move to the business you actually want to do and the life you want to live. So the first thing is I had to figure that out. How was I going to do it? But what do you guys know about lawyers? We're completely addicted to emails and telephone calls, and we have to be on at all times. Our days are defined by literally every 6 minutes of the day. This was so ingrained in me, I was lost. I was like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? Like, I have to give up my email and my phone, and no one does this. I'm going to lose my practice. None of my employees are going to know. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I was like, oh, I made that promise to myself. You guys remember the promise? Okay, I'm stepping in and making decisions from my soul, and my soul says I need space. So I'm going to put down the phone. I'm going to put down the email. And I'm shaking like a leaf every time I've had to do this, and I'm going to give myself space. And I did it. Within a very short period of time, I actually elevated myself out of doing day-to-day legal work into being the CEO of my law firm, which gave me the space and the freedom to step into this over here, my new business. I continued on, and I was like, letting go of email and phone calls and answering and being on 24/7 is a huge detachment. Let me tell you, it's the hardest one. Actually, it felt the hardest in the beginning, but there was so much more. There was so much more that I had to do. If you're literally living a life, I didn't want to live where I currently was living anymore. I didn't want some of the relationships that I was in with friends and clients. I wanted to feel good all the time because I remember how I felt when I was over there at that retreat. So I started changing all of it. Over and over again, and this is how it feels, in case you guys want to know, is I'm over here feeling freedom, and then it's like, but the money, my fame, the people, my relationships, they're all over here, so I got to go over here. Okay, I'm taking care of business, but shit, I promised myself I'd be over there. Okay, let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. I did this so many times within that year, over and over and over again. I leaned in. Anything that was coming from my soul, whether I had the money or I didn't have the money, I moved forward. No matter how uncomfortable it felt, no matter how much fear, the fact that I couldn't see the path, I did it anyways. And the most beautiful part of that is at the end of the year, I was completely up and operating in my new business. And I had proven to myself that if you follow your soul, you will always be held. Always. Because following your soul leads you to live the life of your dreams. not the lifestyle of an attorney, the life of your dreams. I have 2 questions for you guys that I want you to consider today. How will you create the space that you need to connect to your soul? And when you connect with your soul, will you follow it to the life of your dreams? Because when your soul is ready, mine's right here waiting.